Madam Chair, we are live and ready when you are.
So I'd like to call the Seldovia Planning Commission to order. And if the city clerk could do a roll call.
Commissioner Forsberg,
Here.
Commissioner Kroll, Commissioner Ryan,
Here.
and Commissioner Sweet.
Here.
All right, we have all members present.
And then I'd like to request a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
And can someone second that?
I'll second. I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Or do we need to do that? Yes. Okay, can the city clerk do the roll call? Thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes,
and Chair Sweet.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. And then I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from the May 3rd meeting of the commission. Could I get a motion to, for approval of the minutes from the May 3rd, commission meeting?
Yes, I'll approve or make a motion for approval.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
And could the clerk do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ryan,
Yes,
and Chair Sweet.
Yes,
All right, minutes have been approved.
thank you. The next item is for any public comments regarding items not on the agenda.
Doesn't look like we have any members of the public. That, and we have no public hearings with prior notice or site plans.
Thank you. And so we'll go ahead and start with the item H, commission business. And the first item is the formation of a subcommittee, commercial business district.
Yeah, and so through the chair with the last May 3rd meeting, there was a motion to form a subcommittee for the commercial business district. And Chair Sweet has put together a draft of a charter for that on, looks like it's on page 8 of your packet. And there it has the context and the mission and the responsibilities and what composition of that commission looks like, and the frequency of meetings and when that report would be due to the planning commission. So that, I guess, so that the commission and Chair Sweet look through and discuss that, with the goal being to provide a report to the council on how we want to form this subcommittee. And I'll also point out that on page 13 in the bylaws is the subcommittee procedure for the planning commission. So that's kind of what we're going by. So that's in your packet as well on page 13. Chair Sweet, do you want to comment on this? This is your.
Okay, I guess and then the other item that's in the packet is a letter, a public notice asking for people who would want to participate in on the subcommittee. And then I guess one question I would have is there will be that the letter, or do we just need to identify that a copy of this would be sent to all the people, property owners in the business district?
Yeah, so this notice was for a posting, but we could put that on there as well, if we can add that to it.
I guess, as we talked in the last meeting, we wanted to be sure that the people who were in the district had noticed that that this committee was being formed so that they could have input into what was going on in their district. And then the other item that I remember was that we wanted to make sure that other people outside of the district were welcome to, so that it was a community, definitely asking for the community and potentially even the people outside of the city limits, just to make sure that we were getting, I guess, the main one aspect of this subcommittee is to make sure that we get community input and people felt like they were part of the process of giving feedback.
Madam Chair, if I could make a suggestion, as part of that letter and the notice, would you guys like to include a timeline for letters of interest? Say if there isn't a July 5th meeting, then if you wanted to be able to confirm members by the August meeting or September meeting, if you did it by August meeting, then we could get things. I mean, either way, I think it would be fine. The letters of interest would need to be submitted to the city by July 27th, 2023, in order to be appointed by the chair at the and confirmed by the commission at the August 2nd meeting. Might be a good timeline.
Okay, so yes, I think that would be helpful, and because I think the goal was to be able to set up to start having the meetings in September after people's busy season. And so that would give everybody time to get the information and submit their interest and then go through the process in the commission.
So did the July 27th date sound?
I think because I think just from a business process, doing that gets information in, and then that can be put together and then provided to the commission to vote on in August.
So like by itself.
I
I
Yes.
have, the thing about the letter of interest is, can it be really simple? And is there a way to make that clear that it doesn't, because if everybody's saying they're so busy and they might not even want to do a letter of interest here in July, but if they could make throw their name in, how easy is it, I guess, to submit that letter of interest?
I could speak to that, Madam Chair.
thank you.
Yes, it's pretty simple. We do ask that people put why they're interested on the letter, and say for if it was a commission, it's nice to have, some kind of qualifications and background. But I think from this case, it would just be where they're from, in this group of individuals that you're looking for. And then if they want to state why they're interested, would help the commission be able to make that choice. And that would be up to the commission itself.
And I think so basically, is it just send an email with that information and have an email address, and that way it makes it as low barrier to entry, I think is what you're getting
Right,
at.
yeah.
Okay, so if that can be included in the letter, and I think the intent would be to welcome everybody. I don't know. I'm not sure how not sure what the process would be from a commission.
Yeah, so I think that the composition would depend on the commission's desires. I could see it going a few ways. You could have as large of a committee as people wanted involved. But depending on how many people that is, that could take more time. Or if you did have a number that you thought was a decent number, and then the meetings are still open. So people from the public can still join the meeting and be a part of that discussion. And they can be both in a work session setting or a meeting setting, depending on where the conversation is at the time, similar to the planning commission. So I'd say I'd leave that up to you guys if we would just want to see how many people you have to see how big the committee gets. And then if people want to join as member of the public later, they could.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Do any of the commissioners have any additional feedback on the charter? Is there kind of following up on what we talked about during the last meeting and the feedback you gave then, and anything that you have in terms of the charter?
I was glad to see here that there's a pending, I guess, Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District as an advisor, and that seems like it would be a really great opportunity to have somebody like that.
And if I may, I don't think that is going to be able to happen, but you can have the city clerk as a subject expert be a part to provide information and staff the meeting.
Good.
Sorry. Well, we can send the invite.
So, and then I have some additional information. I had talked to the executive director a few days ago, and he thought about it. I just received some information that I think you had some communication with them beforehand, and so they provided me that information as well. He didn't actually respond specifically to whether they would participate or not, but I think they may be in a position to offer advice, so they may not. I don't know if it would be within their scope of work, and some of the stuff that were as far as like ordinances, that probably isn't their bailiwick, but if there is something to do with what the people in the business district would like to see in terms of development in the district, then that might be an opportunity for them to come and talk to us. And then I think there might be some things that we can look at in terms of, what we have, our comprehensive plan. We have some things that are already in place. And so when we're talking about all of this, just kind of at the big picture, how do we want to approach that? And then what the level of interest is for the people that are in the business district and in the community at large. So does that sound like a good way to
Yeah,
proceed?
that's really, yep, that was good to hear.
Okay, so trying to, reach out where we can and make sure that what people are saying, that they're heard, and then seeing how we can incorporate it into the conversation. So from a procedural standpoint, do we need to vote to approve this or pass it on to the city council? Or is there anything that we need to, as far as the charter, is there anything that we need to do other than that this is in progress?
Yeah, I think we'd want to vote on the charter to recommend to approve it, and then we can send it to council.
And I guess another sort of point of information would be, as we're doing this, if we're seeing something needs to be done, something might come up, would we revise it and update it, or just add it to the scope of work?
Oh,
Yeah, so if you wanted to approve it as guidelines moving forward and then update it as you needed, and we can provide it to the council for information, but I don't think that they would need to approve it because it does state in your bylaws that the subcommittee can be formed by the chair.
Okay, so we're approving it as a commission, and then we're informing the city council of what we're doing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. So, and I had one other possible member of the subcommittee could be someone from the Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
So would that,
And just thinking that would be great to include, but potentially because you have business owners involved, they probably would already be members of the chamber. But if you wanted that to add that in to ensure that there was representation from the chamber, I think that could be a great note. I know that not most, but a lot of those business owners already are.
and so we could, if somebody's already on it, then they could represent the chamber, or
Or yeah, if
Or-
you wanted a formal representation from the chamber, we could send them a letter. I see what you're saying now.
yeah, whatever. I don't want to, it's like keeping it simple is probably as simple as possible. But also how, and they may have a preference as well, so.
Yeah, we could send the notice out to the businesses in the district, and then we can also email out to the chamber and ask them to distribute it through their membership. And then ask if they would like to provide a representation from the board or
Okay,
the chamber of commerce.
so from a process standpoint, should I just add the Chamber of Commerce as a bullet now before, and then just say, and then present that with the motion to approve the charter?
Sure, as amended with
As amended.
with the inclusion of a chamber member. The formal process would be to move to adopt the charter
and
and
then
then
have
do the
discussion.
amendment, but this
Okay.
can do Bob's rules and.
Okay. All right,
And add it in and then approved with the amendment included, as long as that was a consensus of the commission.
is it okay for Bob's rules?
I like that, Bob's rules, but also wouldn't there be an amendment or a edit to clarify the timeline that you had mentioned earlier? Is that also something that would be included in the charter, that have the letters in by July 27th or something? Was that part of the charter, or that's maybe not part of the charter? The letter of interest. Okay, not necessarily the charter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just thinking as part of the public notice that we were gonna. send
Okay.
out To put a deadline.
It's
on
not
that.
necessarily
Okay.
on the charter. Gotcha. We already have a timeline, just the overall timeline that's included in the charter.
Right, and does that sound like a okay timeline? I mean, I guess if it needs to be adjusted, it could be adjusted, but that would,
Yeah, that looks, should be plenty of time, I would think.
okay. Commissioner Forsberg?
Yeah, so
You put your mic on. You can just leave it on.
the subcommittee, it's when they meet, we're gonna be going through item by item. Is that what's going on? I mean, to look for improvements, or what exactly are we? I'm at a loss for some reason. I mean, I understand why we're doing it, but to simplify it and make it clear and all that stuff, right? So we'll be going one right after another on these points, right?
For clarification through the chair on the points, you're talking about the mission for the commercial business district land use table.
Yeah,
And then any additional Title 18 zoning impacting commercial district.
but as it's, when we have our meetings, we're gonna be going through each one of these to see if we can do something different to it or what.
Right, it would be a review of each of these sections of the code and then as chair Sweet mentioned, it may be good to pull in the comprehensive plan as well and
That's gonna take some time doing it, I mean. Right? I mean, more than maybe a couple meetings.
Yes, I think in the chair and the number of meetings frequency was going to be twice a month starting in September. So it'd be twice a month from September through January, with the goal being to have a report by was it by February?
February 7th.
Yeah, February 7th. Yeah, so it is, it's gonna take some meetings, but I think the railing wish was that there was a detailed look at going through this ordinance if we were gonna change things to
Right.
have a detailed look,
Right.
so.
Can take a little time.
Well, but it should be just for the commercial business district that we're looking at.
We're not gonna look at the land use table.
Well, yeah, but it would be just for the one district, I think.
Oh,
right?
okay, okay.
I hope.
All right, all right.
And I think
Now I got it.
I think perhaps at the first meeting to really look at, okay, how can we do this? Like, what are like, because I think once the people are gathered, then having a conversation about what do people want to get out of it? So it's clear, what people are looking for so that actually by the end of it, those goals are met. And then, because it's like if we have, let's say we have a comprehensive plan, so there's some things that in there that do impact the business district. So what are, kind of like, what are we saying as a community, or what have we said about what we want from the commercial business district? Then how are those ordinances helping with that? And in terms of the current economic conditions, because, some of the things we heard was it's hard to have a business in Seldovia and make money. And so how do we help that while at the same time like work on the things that we said we wanted for the community? And so given that, then if we go through, we talk about those things that are important to us and then look at, well, what are those ordinance saying, and what can those ordinances be adjusted to help people be successful in their businesses while still keeping the community in the way that we want it to be. So does that kind of help framing that? And I think if we talk about that at the subcommittee level when it's getting started, then that can be clarified at that point, and then maybe lay out a working schedule for that time frame. And know, well, we're going to talk about this at this meeting. And so, and then at the end, kind of wrap up with, well, these are the recommendations that the subcommittee would have.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Me too. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the charter for the subcommittee on the commercial business district.
Okay, I'll move to approve this charter for the commercial business district subcommittee. Yes.
You want the charter moved as it's been amended?
Yes, as amended.
As
Just checking.
Yes.
can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Crowe. And can the clerk please do a roll call?
Uh, Commissioner Ryan
Yes.
and Chair Sweet.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries.
And then the next item is staff reports. Would like to turn it over to the city clerk.
Through the chair, there's just wanted a couple of updates. So the first is that there's been 3 building permits submitted for review since May 1st. So kind of uptick. 2 of them have been reviewed by staff and Chair Sweet and signed off on. And there is 1 permit that we're still being reviewed. At the staff level, it's still pending. And for number 2, we have the ordinance that was recommended from last meeting will be scheduled for public hearing at the upcoming June 12th meeting, which was amending the terms for vacation of commission seats. And that will be for public testimony at the next council meeting. And then the third is the Kenai Peninsula Borough Ordinance that's amending Borough Code. And that's ordinance 2023-11. That reduces the number of seats on the Borough Planning Commission. And in front of you is a draft of the substitute that was passed at the meeting last night. It's what they passed is that they're going to reduce the number of seats on the Borough Planning Commission to 9. And what's that? 4 of those seats will be for the cities of Kenai, Soldotna, Seward, and Homer. And the other 5 will be at large. So Seldovia's city seat has been cut out of this ordinance or cut out of the commission by this ordinance. So in the packet, there was some previous, the original ordinance, but this was a substitute that came up at the meeting last night and was passed without really public comment period. So I just wanted to inform council and the members of the commission that that's where we're at. If anyone needs further clarification on that, any questions?
Yeah, man, it seems like Seldovia ought to have at least an at-large member. I mean, guaranteed. So there's at least some representation on that borough board.
Yeah,
I know there hasn't been a city rep for a while.
but I think since when did Polly step down?
Yeah, it's been, what, over a year, maybe close to 2 years. Yeah, so it's a good, it's a good point of when you don't have a voice or representation. What can take place and why it's important to have that. So we are going to bring it forward to council as well at the Monday meeting, just to let them know, because they've been following this. And I did speak with President Johnson for the assembly today, and he recommended that if the city had a comment that we provide that to be a part of the public record. So if you guys have anything as the commission that you would like to include as a comment, please let me know, and we can make sure to include that, pass that along to the assembly.
And then when is it effective? Is it like at signing? Is it effective?
Yeah, it says it's becomes effective immediately upon enactment.
Okay. And are there any comments from any further comments from the commissioners on that?
Well, I think we ought to make it, I'd feel pretty strongly that there's somebody representing Seldovia area. If there's the South Peninsula District, would be us, part of the city of Homer and across the Cache-Mac Bay. Well, Homer already has a rep, right? So it's just trying to spread out the representation a little bit, I guess, is what my concern would be, that the at-large seats should reflect that somehow. I don't know. Unless, or whoever gets that South Peninsula District seat needs to come here and I don't know, somehow report back to this, this area. Keep us informed somehow of what's going on in the borough.
Oh, that's a very good point.
So, so should we as a commission just ask that, given this change, that the South Peninsula representative provide like routine reports to the Seldovia Planning Commission?
Yes, that would help.
Would
Yeah,
that, I
and
mean, if they're looking for feedback, that might at least help keep a link, of a communication link.
right.
Did I hear that it's vacant right now? There's nobody in this, how long has it been vacant?
I think 1.5 to 2 years.
Since Polly Carlucci left.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And right now, it ain't gonna be, according to this, it's not gonna be rep from here.
Correct.
So we would be represented by the South Peninsula representative, and is there one already existing?
That is a good question.
So
Yeah, I think we're gonna look that up and see. But it would be one representative for the South Peninsula outside of the city of Homer. Included across Catchment Bay.
so I guess.
Yes,
in
correct.
the-
Sorry. Currently, the representative is Dawson Slaughter from Anchor Point, and their term expires July 31st, 2025.
Well, I see that area, the at-large district of Cooper Landing, Hope, Eastern Peninsula has a lot of little towns in it. So maybe they're already doing something similar. You know, Hope, Moose Pass, Cooper Landing, those are all pretty little communities.
Yeah, none of those are incorporated
Yeah.
communities,
Right,
though.
yeah.
So we'd be the only first class city without
Ah.
a seat on that borough planning commission.
Yeah, because I mean, we're so different than Anchor Point. It just seems, yeah.
But that must be why they eliminated it, because we haven't fulfilled it, right?
Through the chair, and speaking with Assembly President Johnson today, this has been something that's been discussed over the past couple of years due to the fact that in the Alaska statute, there's a requirement that the planning commission members be an equal makeup of individuals inside and outside of city limits, and due to that requirement, the Borough Commission has just gotten larger and larger. It went originally, I think it had, well, I don't know how many it had originally, but quite a few years ago, it only had 11, and then it had 13, and now it has 14, because the communities outside of the borough keep growing. And so in order to make that difference, they kept adding members, and had to keep adding members. And I think they did go to the state, he said last year, and they asked for a change to that, and that it was granted, but still with that representation, the cost to have the planning commission and the size of it makes it really hard for regular business to be able to be conducted. So they were trying to bring that proportion back down to a similar level as the assembly level. And that is one question that I have is if the proportions are still, if it still exists or not, because I got the impression that they didn't, and I need to double check on that. Because if they do, then I don't know that the 4 and 5 is an appropriate proportion. So that is one question I was gonna go back and ask, with there being 4 cities and 5 at-large members. Compared to having 5 cities and 14 at-large members. But maybe that's not in play anymore. I need to verify.
Okay, so I guess sounds like we need more information. But I guess at the same time, if they're looking for feedback, then maybe asking that the representative for the South Peninsula provide reports to the Seldovia Planning Commission. That way it will at least provide a communication link. Does that sound like a good way to go for right now? And then if we find out anything additional, then we can make a judgment on that information later.
Right, so to request routine correspondence with the current representative for the area.
Yeah.
And consideration be given in the future to have somebody from this side of the bay for that seat.
Is that
Good.
so? So to have, so I guess the motion would be to provide routine communication from the South Peninsula representative on the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission to the Seldovia Planning Commission, and for consideration be given to someone from Seldovia to be on the South Peninsula seat at the next opportunity. So if I could have a motion to that effect.
Yeah, I'll make a motion on that.
And if I could have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. If the clerk could do a roll call.
Just want to make sure I restate the motion for a moment. Provide routine correspondence from the representative of the Borough Planning Commission to the Seldovia Planning Commission, and for the future request to have representation from this side of the bay for that seat in consideration of someone from Seldovia. Or do you want to restate it?
I'm sorry, can you restate that?
So the motion I have is to provide routine correspondence for the future from the KPB Borough Planning Commission representative to the Seldovia Planning Commission, and consideration of someone for the future from Seldovia beyond that seat at the next opportunity.
I think that goes.
All right. Commissioner Forsberg
Yes.
and Commissioner Kroll.
Okay.
That's a yes from Commissioner Kroll. Commissioner Ryan
Yes.
and Chair Sweet.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes.
And then the next agenda item is J, information. I'm sorry, informational items not requiring action.
And so it was recommended by staff that since the next regular scheduled meeting is the day after July 4th, that unless there's some time sensitive business that we recommend canceling the July 5th meeting.
Any feedback from the commissioners?
Sounds like a good idea.
Thank you.
That would leave our next regularly scheduled meeting for the August 2nd meeting.
And then any comments from the public?
Nope, we can, no comments from the public, Madam Chair.
Any comments from the commissioners?
I have a question. Well, who's advertising these meetings and the information that's going to be discussed? And the definitions.
Are you referring to the subcommittee?
Yeah, I think he's publicizing that and
Yeah, so. Do you want yeah, through the chair, I can answer that. So they would be noticed as per all the planning commission and city council meetings. And I think Chair Sweet wanted notices sent out to the commercial business district owners as well as residents of the city. I'm not, but, and so that would fall to me as the city clerk to do that. Does that answer your question?
yeah, I guess so.
Did you have any other suggestions on communication?
No, just what they discussed the last meeting, the
Okay.
public, and it's recorded here on the minutes.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? And then guess we just mentioned that the next meeting is on August 2nd and with that, at I guess 6:44, I adjourn, or I guess it's motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we need a motion in a second, but no vote.
I have a motion.
Motion to adjourn. I will make a motion to adjourn this planning commission meeting.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned.